Okay, this is going to be the Y Machine Part 7. CarRadio lever puller, 1 million frames per second, macro pulse. This painting is also by Don Hughes from a description, extremely shitty sketch by me. And the other art's by him also, from probably 7 or 8 years ago. Me and Don Hughes. To use the radio receiver analogy, your brain is a radio, and your reality, your experience, is the song playing on the radio. And it's actually a car radio. That's better, because the car is your physicality, and the radio represents your mind. And there's this constant incoming stream of data passing through your car radio. But I want to make clear that you are not the radio. Usually in this analogy, people would say you are the radio. Your consciousness, your reality, is the song playing on the radio. The stream of data being received and interpreted through the radio, that's you. No, that's not you. You are not the radio. You are not the song. You are the lever puller. That's not you. You're not the radio. You're not the song being received. You're not the stream of data coming through the radio either. You are the lever puller. You are the button pusher. You are the man controlling the radio. You are the man sitting in the car. If you don't like what's on the radio, even if it's been playing the same song your whole life, even if it doesn't seem like there is much to listen to, there is. And you have to change the station. You are the prime mover. I understand you've been listening to the angry at work, quote unquote, angry at work song for 20 years, and you like it. It's comfortable. You know all the words to that song, Angry at Work. But it's not the only song on the radio. And you decide what's on the radio. Your thoughts, your emotions are not you. They are not even something you create. They are something you receive. Your thoughts and emotions are something you receive, something you experience, something you observe. They are a signal. Your thoughts and emotions are in the stream of information that you are processing, and they are something you decide. You don't craft or create or build. You don't prepare a thought or emotion for yourself ahead of time. You only observe it in time. You only observe it in time. But the source of those thoughts and emotions is outside. Who knows where? All we know is that it is coming from the radio tower. Beyond that, we don't know. But even if you experience a thought that says, let's think about baseball for a while. And then all the thoughts that follow after that initial thought of, let's think about baseball. So let's say you experience a thought, let's think about baseball. And then all the thoughts that follow after that initial thought of, let's think about baseball, all the thoughts that follow, as expected, are about baseball. So then you think, see, I've created all these thoughts about baseball. But where were those thoughts before they popped through the bubble wall of your conscious awareness? Where did they come from? Where is your thought and emotion fabrication workshop, where hordes of little elves assemble these impressions for you? Where's the thought and emotion workshop? Where are they crafted? Where do you pre-craft them? It doesn't exist. That's nowhere in your conscious awareness. That thought and emotion fabrication workshop. So you don't create thought or emotion. You decide whether or not to listen to the radio. That's it. You decide to change the frequency. You decide where the car goes and what's playing on the way. You are the lever puller, the man that sits in the car. You are not the radio. You are the man that changes the station. And that highest command line is will. Your aim, your goal, your ultimate intention. That is what you create. That is where the lever puller resides. In the highest command line accessible to us. Will. That is where your free will is exercised. You set your will, your overall goal, and all the lower command lines issue forth from that, from your will. And you decide which pieces of data to keep and which to discard. What to listen to, what data serves your goal from the stream and what doesn't. What you turn off. And the reason you operate from that highest, most abstract command level of will, rather than from thought or emotion, is because this game of being a human being is extremely complex, extremely abstract, and it utilizes an enormous amount of processing powers, layers of filtering or processing. But it's so complex and unwieldy, cumbersome, that it would be impossible to navigate the raw information. You can't operate properly as a human from the raw code, the raw data. You need to basically delegate and automate those conscious processes in separate levels that operate automatically, independently, unless you choose to step in. But it is like any kind of hierarchy, corporate or military command structure. And you have the lever puller himself, who only makes the big, overarching decisions from the penthouse of the 777 tower. You set the goal, the agenda. And from there, many specialized departments in this hierarchical structure process that agenda and work without your direct supervision to implement that goal, to bring it to fruition way down on the street. Your will trickles down the tower, being shaped by all the corporate filtering layers until it finally manifests down on the ground level. Or I think the most concise analogy is the computer analogy. Let's say you want to send a message, present a narrative to your fellow lever pullers in the form of a letter, a Word document, or a video. And your method, your tool, is a computer. And you know how a computer works, not exactly, but basically, you know that it operates on binary code, ones and zeros, down at the root level, the raw data. But you don't see that. That's subconscious, and it's usually not useful to you. It's definitely not conducive to your intention of addressing your fellow lever pullers to operate from that ones and zeros level. You need a higher command line, a greater level of abstraction. You need to automate the root level of ones and zeros. So you create a symbolic user interface, language like DOS or something like that. It's still too cumbersome. You need another layer, another higher level of abstraction from the ones and zeros. So now you create a graphical user interface. So we can have windows and pictures and symbols that represent massive swaths of code, of ones and zeros, and all different nested formulas that will take place. And this process of further and further abstraction in order to more efficiently execute your will, your aim, continues through several more layers of software, several more higher abstractions of the data, like a video converter, an audio editing program, a video editing program, or a Word document program, which ride on top of all the lower layers, with the raw code being the foundation, the root layer. But you can't write a story, you can't create a video by working at the root layer of typing ones and zeros. It would take literally forever. It's a waste of your energy. It's a waste of your attention. So you automate all that processing. You don't focus on the code. That takes care of itself. It's all automated. You just focus on the intention. You go as high up the command lines as you can. The message of the video, that's what you focus on, and you don't pay attention to the underlying reality of ones and zeros. And in the same way, you can never get control of thought and emotion, the thought command line layer, or the emotion command layer, or instinct layer. You can never get control of it from the same layer. You can't control thought operating from thought. You have to go above. You have to go up. You have to go up to a higher layer, a higher command line. So you have to go up. The only way to really get control of the lower command lines is to have a clear, well-developed will, like having a GPS coordinate. You have to decide where you are going. So, any kind of drug or chemical that alters your perception that you take. I don't know about any drug, but any psychedelic that you take to alter your consciousness, your perception, your reality as you experience it. Psychedelics, they don't add anything. They're not actually adding anything to your consciousness. What they're doing is they're taking away from your pattern, your consciousness. Everything you see on psychedelics different. Everything you see is actually always going on, but it's not part of, or it's not conducive to this program you're running of human life, of being a man or a woman. The reality of human life, it's not conducive to that. So you don't usually see it. So it's usually filtered out. Like, you could imagine there's a stream of data coming into reality that everyone perceives. Everyone receives the same stream of data. And you can imagine it's like a projector that's so super fast, super high resolution. It's like basically infinite frames per second from our perspective, because it's coming in from a higher dimension. If you were above, it wouldn't be infinite. You would know it. But from our perspective, it's infinite, the stream of data that's coming in. But just for example, we'll say it's 1,000,000 frames per second. The root data stream of reality that everyone gets. Say it's 1,000,000 frames per second. But a human, you can only perceive, like, say, 30 frames per second. So the projector's running at 1,000,000 frames per second, but you can only perceive 30 frames per second. So depending on the relative size of the gears, depending on the alignment of those two cycles, of the projector and your viewing of it, where exactly your 30 frames of perception fall within that total 1,000,000 frames coming out of the projector. And it's a machine, like a clock or something, and it's like gears, where your 30 frame little window overlays the projection. You can imagine it like two gears running, a big gear and a small gear. But it's a machine, it's a cycle, so where your 30 frame window overlays the projection is going to be the same every revolution. Every cycle, it's going to lay over the big gear at the same spot every time, because it's all interlocking and nested like gears of a clock. But the projector is putting out 1,000,000 frames every second, and you're only seeing 30 of them. So there could be, thousands of other streams embedded in that stream of data. If you're running at a different frame rate, you're processing it in a different timing, you could see a totally different reality, because you're catching a totally different 30 frames of the 1,000,000 frames every cycle. But basically what psychedelics do is bump your window off. It bumps your window over a few frames, or way off, in one direction or another, depending on what the chemical is and what filtering layer, what part of the formula, what processing layer it is turning off in your brain. In a series of formulas or circuits, turning one off or bypassing it. Like if you imagine some kind of electronic, a computer, which is like a series of circuits, a series of digital integrated circuits or processors, turning certain bypassing one or another different one. But, you know, there's tons of them, and it's very complex, so it's hard to estimate exactly what the effect will be, or when you turn one thing off, how it's hard to predict how it's going to affect the end product that you perceive as reality. Or if you think of it mathematically, your organic consciousness is receiving this incoming stream of data, of numbers, we can imagine. And there is only one stream of information. Everyone is always getting the same one stream, the same data, the same number. But the way that number is processed, refined, limited, determines the nature of what you perceive to be reality. So, like, first it passes through the consciousness filter, the highest filter perceptible to us, and it takes the form of an idea. Then it passes through the physicality filter. Okay, what does this data, this idea mean practically, physically? What does it mean in space? Then through the organic life formula, a filter or a formula, the data stream, the number passes through the organic life filter. What does this mean to living things, this idea, this piece of data? This whole thing, and this whole thing can be about anything, any concept. Let's say we're talking about a substance, oil. We just discovered oil for the first time. First, we conceptualize it. It enters through the first formula of pure consciousness, the outer wall. And first, it's an idea. Oil. Oil. It's a liquid. It's energy. It's black. It's down. It's in the ground. It represents things. It is related to other thought forms. Water, night, fire, earth, fish, blood. Then it passes through the physicality formula. Okay, it has to be in space. Where is it? How much? How big? How far? How deep? Then through the life filter or formula. Could be dangerous. Not food. Not drink. Poison. Dangerous, etc. Then your brain processes it through the animal filter. How will it affect your mammalian physicality as opposed to the effect of oil on plant life? And the stream of data continues trickling down through all your particular filters of your mind, of your pattern, like dropping a quarter in one of those kind of vertical pinball type things at the front counter of a pizza shop where you drop a quarter into water and there's all these pegs and it flits down through all the pegs and you have to try and guess which path it'll take through the pegs. That's like your pattern. That's the way you process the stream to create your reality. This quarter flitting unpredictably down through the water. And ultimately all these formulas processing the stream of data are all adding up to, what does it mean to me? What does it mean to a human animal? Oil. What does oil mean to me? Energy, money, fuel, property, control. And not just any human animal, but is my pattern, my particular formula, which my mind uses to construct this particular reality, quote unquote, I am experiencing, is that lowest level processing layer. Processing the universal and wholesome stream of data. Through the filter of a little girl, or through the formula of a housewife. What does oil mean to a housewife? What is it symbolically? What other symbols are closely related to oil in the formula of a housewife? What does it mean to a man, a white man, an Eskimo, an emperor, a merchant? What does oil mean to me? And normally, to normal people in normal circumstances, all these layers are imperceptible. All that is perceptible is the product of all these many, many layers. All these many, many interlocking mathematical formulas, which in combination compose your particular pattern, your particular reality. So you could imagine your person, your persona, your reality to be a series of formulas through which the one stream of data is interpreted. 1, 2, 3, 4. But all you are aware of is the finished product. That's all you're supposed to see. And that is all you usually do see. Like a television show. You don't see the carpenters building the soundstage and the set and the props and the people getting makeup put it on and practicing their lines and all the bad takes. They don't air any of that. And they all work for you. And they know that it isn't useful to your housewife or merchant man or Eskimo reality. So they, your mind, only show you the finished TV show. That's why if ever any human being ever creates something valuable, something useful, an invention, a discovery really, because we can only discover what's already there in the data stream, the one wholesome stream. But when any human discovers any valuable idea, any piece of data, the first and most important concern is credit. Credit. You need to ensure that you get credit because the discovery is valuable. And specifically, it is materially valuable. It is equivalent to stuff. And we must ensure that we acquire resources equivalent to the usefulness of the discovery. And this applies to everyone. If you're operating as one particular human person, then you can't avoid running this program. Because that's how reality, quote unquote, is created. Because really, that's what all the formulas are, all the filters that the stream of data is passing through. They are layers of identity, of increasing specificity. You're a consciousness, you're a physicality, you're alive, you're meat, you're a person, you're a man, you're 32, you have shitty dreadlocks, you make money this way. So when a valuable piece of data comes through the stream of data and is recognized as useful to all consciousness or all life or all animals, we are not aware of that. We are not perceiving that. Even this data is useful to all humans or the whole neighborhood, or it's valuable to your whole family or whatever. We're not aware of all those higher processing layers of identity. So the first time we become aware of it is all the way down at the bottom ego layer. And as soon as it enters our conscious awareness, we say immediately, what does this mean to me? How much stuff is this worth? Because we're not looking up all the time, up into our subconscious, into the higher layers, or into the raw data stream. Because that is not conducive to playing your role in reality and acquiring stuff and being successful. So when an idea pops out of the wall of the subconscious into our conscious awareness bubble, we grab it and we stuff it in our pants until we can figure out how to be sure we get credit for it. One common effect of psychedelics, one thing you are likely to observe, is the whole environment seems to be breathing. Regularly, organically expanding and contracting, especially plant life. If you look at the tree line in the distance, you are likely to observe this ebb and flow of the whole forest at once. This regular organic pulsation. And what I think this is not a hallucination, but this is really happening, literally all the time. It's like an earth breath. The timing belt of all life on earth. The breath of the macro man. But the reason that you don't see this macro pulse, macro breathing all the time in your normal state is because it is filtered out. Since it is consistent and pervasive, it becomes background. It is adjusted for. It is adjusted out by a filter. Like, imagine like a gimbal for a TV camera. Like, you're not always aware of your heartbeat. Or your breathing. It's background, or your digestion, because it would hinder your human experience. If the beating of your heart and other regular automatic functions of your body were always at the forefront of your awareness, it would distract from the story. It would distract from the game, from the experience. So your perceptual filters adjust for those types of things. That is one of the processing layers. Is similar to that video stabilization software they use on the Zapruder film, of mechanically, like a gimbal for a camera that adjusts for this constant cyclical background movement that is always going on. It's like a software or something. It's adjusted out. So when you are seeing that macro pulse, you have turned off or shifted over that formula which corrects for that. And now you can see it when it's supposed to be in the background. But you've turned off that layer. So now you can see the macro pulse, the macro breathing that's always going on, the timing belt of life on Earth. So when you use psychedelics or other drugs, or even no drugs, just different practices or meditations or contemplations or prayers, you are looking at higher layers, higher subconscious processes, unfiltered or less filtered data. And that can be very interesting. It can be very interesting, even though it's not conducive to the illusion of the human life game, the TV show. It's still interesting because it's like now, instead of seeing the finished product, surface presentation layer of a TV show, instead you are seeing through the show, through the scenery or set, and actually seeing all these aspects of its construction, or seeing it from different angles, from the side or behind. It's like the show up front is still going on, but that's not where your attention is anymore. Instead, you're seeing actors in the makeup chair practicing their lines last week, and the carpenters building the set last month. Because time doesn't exist. That's created in the production of the show. It's an illusion. So when you look past the show, you see the whole process of creating the show instead. You're seeing it from the side or from outside the building, outside the soundstage. You're seeing all the set scenery from behind. So instead of seeing all the painting and stuff you're supposed to see on the front, you're seeing like the pattern of wood, the pattern of raw plywood and nails and rope and strings and lights and stuff from the back. Which is all very interesting, but it makes it very difficult to follow the actual show, the actual story. The actual story requires your full attention to follow it. It's that complex. It's that abstract. So when you use any substance and turn off layers, turn off parts of your processing, you're perceiving things you don't normally perceive. But you are also missing a lot of the main show, the main story of human life. Because this game, the human life game, is the very highest level of abstraction. At the very bottom of the well. Or very top, depending on your perspective. And it requires all the processing layers, all the processing power in order to function, in order to remain coherent, immersive, and to contain real meaning. So you may be aware of all this higher level stuff, but be unaware of simple human cues and interactions that are usually automatically understood. Like someone hands you a glass of water, but you don't interpret and process the cues properly. Those subtle cues. And when exactly to tighten or release your grasp. You miss these little subtle behavioral cues and you fumble the glass of water and drop it and it breaks. Or you misunderstand simple communications because you have turned off some necessary layer for common memory, common experience. So your analogies, your patterns aren't matching up, aren't syncing up with the show anymore. The highest abstraction. The human life show.